just so thankful for this moment to see you all, to make that drive from Miami, Florida. I do it anytime, any day for Palm Beach. I come up here frequently, so I get the privilege of visiting a lot of schools, thankfully, sharing a lot of my literature that I have to offer. I'm a children's author. I've written 32 books, filled of curriculums, novels, bedtime stories. I'm working on a newest activity curriculum book targeting primary elementary students. So I'm a former third and fifth grade teacher. Now I'm a children's professor at Barry University. So super thankful. Now let me just, if I may, are you all high school, middle school, elementary administration? I'm just curious. Helps with my lingo and the things I say. Amazing. We got that too. Our English language learners, knowing how there's so many students, and even here it's incredibly skewed in South Florida, the number of English language learners, students who are performing below proficiency at simple conversation. So let's get into it because I don't want to eat up too much time. Now I do go down rabbit holes a lot, so forgive me. I'll try my hardest. In the essence of time, we'll hold off on that. I told you a little bit about myself. I travel the state. I go to different schools, different places to really talk about the love for literacy. I go to children's museums, read on the beach, read virtually, museums. It doesn't matter. I've even had some privileges. I told you of being all here throughout Palm Beach County schools at different elementary. There's so many schools. I just gave up. I was like, all right, okay, I'm tired of looking for pictures and then having to like find the schools or the pictures, but it's cool because it's a good problem to have. It really is when it's time to search for evidence. All right, let's get right into it. Everything we read constructs us, makes us who we are. Mem Fox. Everything, you can see all my citations, you can see where I pull this from the theorists. Everything we read. So we must be mindful of what we consume, what we take in. I'm always mindful of what's coming up on my algorithm, my timeline. I'm mindful of, yes, the music that I listen to, the TV that I watch, the conversations that I engage in. But most importantly, the content that I read. Reading is not an act. Welcome. Come on in. Come on in. I'm Dr. Michael Woodward. Just call me Mike. Reading is an act. Reading is something that we must excite children. And sadly, not so many can do it as well as others. But even many of our adult counterparts struggle. Let's say 1 in 6 adults read below a 7th grade reading level. Illiteracy is real and it's evident. So there's 3 things I want to talk about in our time together. I will do my best to be mindful of time because I know we got the sessions and all that good stuff, but I get going, especially when we talk about history. No history teachers in here, right? Okay, I always get a little when there's some history teachers out there because it's alive. And sadly, people are changing history in a way where you have to double and triple check the sources that you find it. So some of the things I do want to talk about, concept of childhood, some data and theory and practice, some useful strategies and applications, whether they're in elementary or high school, aftercare, during 8 to 3, it doesn't matter. I wanted to make this as general as possible. Can anyone welcome? You found me. Come on in. It was a walk. I know. I guarantee you it's worth it. Does this picture look familiar to anyone? Has anyone ever seen this picture? Does anyone know? Anyone know? This, ladies and gentlemen, is the very first picture book. The very first picture book, Orbis, Sensationalism, the world around us. It was written in Latin in the 17th century by John Amos. Not John Amos, James Evans from Good Time, not John Amos. Right, not I know, right? You'll see a lot of that Latin influence in Spain and, of course, a lot of the European countries. So this book was written on a slate. It was chiseled. I have this book. I brought it for you all in case you'd like to see, because we see hundreds and thousands of picture books every day and throughout our places and our classes. Well, I have it, and I'll share it. I'll pass it around in a moment, but let me get to the slide first, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. So this concept of childhood, when children are born, they come into the world, as a blank slate. Children do not come out into the world evil and wicked, as the Puritans referenced back during the 13 colony times. Children come out as a blank slate. So John Locke, 17th century philosopher, taught us the terminology tabula rasa. A little Latin for you. A blank slate. When you meet a child, know that that child was taught how to be kind, was taught to be loving. Whether it was indirect or direct teaching, in some way, something taught that child. So we must understand that children, oh man, they're watching us. They're listening, they're engaging, and they're using what we say in everyday conversations and interactions, and it's incredibly scary. So here I go again, going into the rabbit hole. This concept of play, this is new. This isn't something that's been around since the dawn of century. Children weren't seen as children until they became of age, and that's like 6, 7, 8. By the time they can pick up an axe, a shovel, a plow, oh, they were getting put to work. Grade school? Why? For what? We can get out there in that field, so we all eat in this household. This concept of play is few and far in between for centuries. Child labor laws, that just came about 100 years ago, 100 some odd years ago. Children were favored in many occupations. Can anyone name these two occupations? I'm sure you can. But why would children be in such high demand? Yes, ma'am. They're small. So we got people mining for diamonds or whatever they're mining for. Place I don't want to be, especially in this suit. But I definitely don't want to be there. The chimney sweepers, because they're small. Do you think they were getting paid a day's wage that was comparable to their counterparts, adults? Of course not. Let me take you back to John Locke. I think what really stands out to me about this is during this time, the 17th century, yeah, we're easing on into the Renaissance and all that good stuff, the beauty and all of that. But when it came time to talk about children and how we treat children, that was something that was a struggle. Come on in. There was something that wasn't really making its way around the colonies. So I have this book too. Some thoughts concerning education. It was written as a pamphlet, a brochure. And if you read it, the way that he even writes, it's like a journal. But it's his thoughts concerning education and a lot of virtues. I was reading it last night preparing. I just want to read just this quick moment. He talks about play, and he talks about how we should be more open and apt to allowing children to play when it is time to learn. He says, to keep up his eagerness to it, let him think it a game belonging to those above him. And when by this means he knows the letters, by changing them into syllables, he may learn to read, without knowing how he did so, and never have any chitting or trouble about it, nor fall out with books, because of the hard usage and vexation they have caused him. Children, if you observe them, take abundance of pains to learn several games. To learn several games, which, if they should be enjoying them, they would arbor as a task in business. Yes, it's very, but if you really unpack the words, he talks about creating this sense of play, to teach letters, to teach reading, to teach how children can come together. This was, 300 some odd years ago. Yet civilizations have been around for millennia. So I don't want to beat that up too much. Let's go back to Orbis Picture. Orbis Pictus Sensualism. It's this book right here, written by John Amos, the very first picture book written in Latin in the 17th century as well, I believe, 1658. Notice it's very heavy on morality. It teaches the Psalms. You see that a lot back during that time with, the flourishment of Christianity and Europeans coming over, 13 colonies. It spread like wildfire. And you see this, you see this within the textbooks. You see this within the school. And I'll show you that. But you also see it in Orbis Pictus. They were really into the morality, making the right choice, being pure and good, and ridding children of being evil. and the wickedness that they say they brought into the world. Wild. America's first textbook, the New England Primer, or the Primer, however way you want to cut it. This was our very first textbook. Think of all the textbooks that you've come across, all the textbooks that y'all got on y'all shelves, that you have children open and peer through. This was the very first. The very first one to get introduced to the 13 colonies. It sold over 3 million copies, And let's take a look at the language. Thy life to mend, this book attend, my book at heart should never part.
Probably because it's handwriting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're out of time. Well, no, we haven't gotten to that slide yet. We're getting there. We're getting there. With our printing press, which changed literacy as a whole. Gave more opportunities. So we know this New England Primer quoted King James left and right. This was a book that was in nearly every household in the 13 colonies. Oh, and I have it. It's right here. If anyone would like to see it. It's interesting how we taught the language, how we taught phonics, how we taught a lot of things. And it all circled back, it seemed as though, to the word. Interesting. Let me speed up things a little bit more when we start to see children's literature over the centuries, because this session is past, present, and future. So I'm trying to get us there. But when we think about literature and what it looked like when stories were told on crates, on the corners of ancient Greece and Roman places in Jerusalem, and people were telling these stories in a way that sadly they weren't getting passed down how they should be. We had oral tradition that was present, but what happens when great grandmother passes? And we forget pieces of the story, then the story changes. So thankfully in 1450, we had the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg, which changed a lot. But everybody couldn't read, sadly. There was a divide. And I think that showed within literacy as well, when you think of the access to literacy. And we also think of the wealth gap. Oh, I'll get there. Oh, you know I'm building up to that. But take a look at the horn book. I don't have a horn book. I'm going to get one, but I don't have one. It's a huge paddle. Teachers carried it. They carried it on the boats, all the way from Europe to the 13 colonies. They carried it all throughout colonies. It would last generations or decades. And it's simply a paddle, a wooden paddle or a long board. They would have a script or some scroll, whether it's primarily would be psalms. In a way, it would be psalms. It would be letters. It would be songs that people sing, that children would sing to learn. And they would use cow's hooves. There's some laminate at the bottom of the hoof. I have yet to see this in real life, but I've read about it, and that's awesome. So that's how they preserve the horn book. So when you think of the horn book, it was one of the first textbooks that people carried around. And that's how we got children to learn and to read and to sing. And it was amazing. Now let's progress a little bit more. When we think about literature, and this history of literature, we have what we call chapbooks. Chapbooks are like a penny. You have your little street peddler who will come to town with his backpack, and most likely he'll have a back pocket full of chapbooks. And these are the books that Disney is still making over and over and over again, and somehow steadily getting our money. Somehow, some way. I know there's a remake coming out of something this summer. There's a remake of something, of Mortal Kombat. They just did something. But it's cool. I'm going to watch Toy Story 5. Anyways, when we think of books or stories that were told, that were gathered by the Grimm brothers, these are real people. It's not just a TV show. Or we think about A Little Pretty Pocketbook by James Newbery, one of the most championed literary awards, the most sought after literary award, the James Newbery Award. He started as one of the first children's publishers. And really, he gathered everybody's stories and found a way to mass produce and publish them, and the rest is history. But it's interesting. Let me take us back to the chapbooks in the 16th century. The clergy and the rich. I've read some accounts that they despised chapbooks. They didn't like it. They didn't like the opportunity of whom having access to education. The lower class, the poor. I don't even say in black, white, the poor. They wanted to make it in a way where this shouldn't be allowed. And I'm not saying they were ever banned, but they were certainly looked down upon because it dismantled that literacy gap. And we're talking about a time where books weren't not as prevalent. You couldn't just log on to JSTOR or Galileo and pull up your favorite article that was written. Sometimes people were reading things over and over again. They were passed down, or you had to wait for that story at the end of the night by grandma to tell you about James and the Giant Slayer or Jack and the Giant Killer. We get to the Victorian era. And I'm always very on the fence about this time period in life. It was so beautiful. Renaissance, Van Gogh, and your Picassos and Sistine Chapel. There's so much beauty. But when you think about the Victorian age in that time, there was a lot of death. Infant mortality rates, women dying during childbirth, which sadly is still happening today for some reason. But this was a time where there wasn't much to do. So they read. And that's amazing. And many of these books are still being mass-produced over and over and sold to us. Yet where's the representation? Where are people even allowed to read during this time across the pond, on this side of the pond? If you were caught with any of these books, I wonder what would happen. No, I don't have a slide where I'm going to take you down that dark road, but I will show you a little bit of the change. And we start to see a modern shift in the history of children's literature, come on in, and literature as a whole. We start to see a sense of championship, a sense of reverence for multicultural. We haven't gotten to multicultural literature yet, but we start to see a presence, and we start to see a shift and a change. A decade later, our 34th president, Dwight Eisenhower, signed the Library Service Act. Changed the game. Now we finally have federal dollars that are invested into our nation, that are targeted specifically for librarianship. And that's amazing, because this sense of a free public school education just came about, and sadly that quick it seemed like it's going away, but that's again another rabbit hole that I will not take you down. So we have many of our elements of what makes a beautiful book, because at the same time I want you to walk away and be able to identify a beautiful book. The easiest giveaway are the awards that it wins. Different awards. But since we talk about, I had my transition when I made it last time. I forgot my transition word. But when we talk about progression and we talk about what Eisenhower did by signing the Library Service Act, it increased the availability for literature. I want to say across the board, it's right here on the tip of my tongue, but I can't say that honestly. Even as I searched for pictures, this is probably one of the last slides I made, because I wanted you to see literature in motion and how we still live in a time where we still have to deliver this inspiration to a child. We have to find a way to get it to them. So when I saw a horse-drawn carriage that's pulling a library, I had to stop. I was like, wow, that's pretty lit. I've never seen a horse pulling a mobile library. And you'll see these things. Miami-Dade Library, they got a bookmobile. It's beautiful. It's fancy. It's like a little RV camper. But back then, in the 50s and the 60s, and even before, they were pulled by mules and horses. I don't think I really need to talk about the inequity that was possibly present in many of the communities that probably went without receiving some of those funds. So that one, and it's the only one that I did put a little caption, 1905. That's from 1905. That horse-drawn library at Washington County, free library. Whatever happened to these bookmobiles? I'm starting to see less and less ice cream trucks, and that's okay. I'm cool with that. But can we see a bit of a literary presence beyond that of the library that sometimes we have to force children to go to? All right, so I keep it moving. What's my time? I think I got like 20 minutes. Some people call something just a story to refer to its weak claim to credibility, and just her story. Oh, that's just her story. To refer to its one-sided and subjective character. It's cowardice. It's lazy. The way that we're able to just delegitimize something that happened because of our point of view. Well, let me tell you something that's way farther than our story. That includes all of us. And that's not just her story. That's not just Palm Beach Lakes. That's not just Miami-Dade County Schools. It's all of us. So I pulled this data from our nation's report card. Oh, yeah. 4th and 8th grade reading scores. I'd love to rip the Band-Aid off and have very objective I like to have subjective conversations, but I like to ground us in the data to see where we are and where we come from. And how little we've moved the needle. I don't know if you've ever taken the time to really sift through this data, because I know we get so consumed. We have our classes, we have our grade levels. I get it. But let's zoom out, because something is happening. Children cannot focus. When you take a child's phone away, they swear it's the end of the world. We're competing. I'm a children's author competing against 20-second reels. It's a losing battle. But I know if I can find something, some way to captivate them. Let's focus right here on these numbers right quick, just for a moment. So these are 4th and 8th grade reading scores. We know our nation's report card assesses our nation's children every 2 years. 4th and 8th graders, they take their reading test, their science test, and their math tests. I'm really only concerned in the reading. I know people can do math. You better know how to count your money and do your bills and budgeting. But literacy is what it boils down to me. Because as they say, oh, boys are so much better at math. Yeah, that's true till they get to 4th grade. Does anyone know why? Does anyone know why 4th grade boys drop off when it comes time to being the mathematicians that society deems them as? Say that one more time. The word problems. Because now these numbers are defined by letters and words, and you lose them. You know what else we lose in 4th grade for little black and brown boys? Their innocence. Or at least that's what the world tells them. All right, I go down a lot of rabbit holes. 20 years ago, 2003. The good news is Florida is above the nation when it comes to reading. That's awesome for our 4th graders, 8th graders. I don't know about that. Kind of on par. But when you look at where we were, and I know it's really small, I'm sorry, and I'll be more than happy to share this with you. In 2003, we were at 216. The score, I think it goes to 500. In 2024, we're at 214. They went down 2 points. How is that so? In 24 years? Even beyond okay, it's been 20 years. Look at how much we've accomplished. Look, we each have a supercomputer in our pockets. Some people got 2. Kids know how to work it better than us. But I have to reorient my son and say, what are you gaining from this consumption? Are you learning how to change a tire or work on your penalty kick? Like, what are you doing in this moment? You're consuming. Another rabbit hole. 8th grade scores are down. This is real. This is 2 years ago. I'm waiting on this year's report. But I mean, this is stone's throw. This is a couple seasons away, a couple mango seasons. Couple more, I'm not going to beat you up. Race and ethnicity. So how did they break down in scores? And I don't think this is something that really surprises any of us, but it's nice to see the truth. Data that is not skewed. This was taken directly from the report. I didn't build this. I just snipped it and cited it. At the top, we have AAPI, and at the very bottom, we have black. I didn't do boy, girl. I didn't want to data crazy y'all to death. That beautiful. Yeah, I didn't want to. I did. The first one had Florida and the nation. These are just Florida scores on the left, nation on the right, and then it's the racial breakdown. So you can see. That was 4th grade. This is 8th grade. Same setup, sadly. All right, shift gears just a little bit. I know that's a lot. Even when I was building it, I was like, oh, there's another section that I'll show you in a moment, but we'll wait for that. Multicultural literature. Now we're getting into the present. We talked about the 50s. We talked about this shift. We started to see a greater presence of multicultural literature. However, we are somehow found ourselves in a place where multiculturalism, diversity, and inclusion is being excused. But I do want to take a moment to tell us the importance of multiculturalism and how that when we include students of all. And I used to be like, I'm going to be honest, if I can be vulnerable with you all, I put these pans one leg at a time like y'all. I used to go into this game. I used to park in the parking lot. I used to prepare And you say, I'm going to save all the black kids I can, all the boys who come from where I come from, all the football playing, tangerine eating during halftime. I want those boys. But then when I got into that situation, my fifth grade classroom, and not a single soul read on the fifth grade reading level. Fourth grade was a long-term sub. So many of these students had never seen a static figure in their life. And that's when I had to realize that it was so much more than what I thought I had signed up for, which I assume each and every one of us has had that moment at some point and have come to this realization like, oh, you need help too. Or you need love as well. All right, so that is, and when I think of multiculturalism, I try not to get so caught up in, well, these are the black kids and these are Hispanic kids because they mean an awfully lot to me. But what really gets me going are children with disabilities. Children on the spectrum. Children who do not see themselves represented in books and in conversations on the playground. And I have a problem with that because that is the true exclusion beyond, I mean, I think it's a culminating, I don't want to prioritize one over the other, but when I myself think about multicultural literature and the inclusion of all, I think of my inclusion classroom. I think of my students who needed a resource. They needed someone. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. So I got to give you some people too now. So you just don't think I just made all this up on the drive here. Some of our multicultural theorists, if you're ever interested, like, all right, I like what he's talking about. Let me see what keeps him up late at night. What are the articles he's reading? They're coming from these people. Dr. Geneva Gay, Dr. Tyrone Howard, Dr. Lori Gladson Billings. I wrote her once and she wrote me back. Felt like somebody. Because you study these people. It's like your favorite artists. You got all their vinyls, and you meet them, or you at least they reference you. Okay, I see you out there in the crowd, bro. Oh, it makes me feel a type of way because there are people who think like us. We're not alone, but it can feel so alone sometimes in this game of education. And then at the very end, Emily Drabinsky. This was like one of the heart and soul. Her and Gloria Ladson-Billings were the heart and soul of my dissertation. What made Emily Drabinsky so special to me, she focuses on critical librarianship. I'm a children's author. I meet media specialists, librarians all the time, and I love them. And I ask for you to love them even harder because they had a hard past 5-6 years dealing with people who come off the street, who have who have this interpretation of what we do and the importance and the accessibility to books. She served as the ALA president, the American Library Association president, 23, 24. This is like the height of town halls and people pushing back. I cannot imagine. I'll pass on wearing that crown. But she's amazing when she talks about what our librarians have went through and where we still have yet to go. All right. Oh my gosh, I'm going to try to breeze through this. In the University of Wisconsin, there's a cooperative children's book center. This place for the School of Education, this library for the School of Education at the University of Wisconsin has been around since 1985. Beyond checking out books, they count the books. They gather all the books that are published each and every year. So they have all the data since 1985 of the books that are represented in ways that are broken down by demographics, racial ethnicities. Please, allow me to break it down some more. So we knew that in 1985, of the 2,500 books they counted, only 18 were works of African American. That's a 0.72%, less than a percent of the books that were published in 1985 were representative of African American authors and illustrators. So this 40 years ago. But I'm setting you up. I'm setting you up. I'm going to give you the payoff. Okay, so we fast forward in 2018. Now we're talking about 22% of books. Now we're just not talking about African American. We're talking about BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, the whole spectrum, exclusion of white. So they got to 22%. Nice. Okay, numbers everywhere, all over the place. These one-pagers I pulled directly from their report. And it's a lot. It's a data overload. But what it says at the very top left, so we know this is 2024, they counted 3,600 books. Of that 3,600 books, 68% of the total books have at least one character who's white. So we're talking about 2/3. That's more than 2/3 of the books that were published just 2 years ago. An easier graphic to digest, to see the differences. This is still 2024, broken down by race, ethnicity, primary character of the subject. 28%, a third of all the book characters were white. But this is advancement. This is actually something, I use this very loosely. This is something we should celebrate. But look where we've come from. Let me go back. All right, we're still in 2024. Now we're in 2018, 8 years ago. I didn't know there was this much math in this session. 8 years ago, 83% of the main characters were white, or the creator was white. 83%. This is 8 years ago. Hold up, I got another one. 83%. At least one character was white. This is 2018. This is 6 years ago. Yes, sir.
So why do you think it's increased?
Give me a moment. I got you. Okay, yes. Why do I think it's increased? Because, okay, so we saw this in the 1950s. We started to see the sit-in movements, the civil rights. We started to see people change. There's also another slide which has some of really predominant books portrayed of people of color. There's even one award-winning book. Does anyone know the first book? I don't say that because that's a tough one. One of the first children's books that received an award was A Snowy Day. Has anyone ever seen that book? Zach Ezra Keats, Jack Ezra, something like that. Ezra Keats. Anybody ever seen that man before? Ezra Zach Keats, white man, wrote a beautiful book about a culture he wasn't even representative of, but was able to be vulnerable and step across that line of difference. And we started to see that, and it was beautiful. It would be nice to see some of our own people getting some awards back then, but it's nice that the spotlight has still allowed us the opportunity to continue to grow. Now, to your question, as we eased into COVID, the gig economy, we eased into the age of technology. You know, technology had already been taken on for some time. I think of the privilege of being seen, viral moments, where a viral moment can get you. I know books that were made off of a meme or something got 1,000 views, a million, bajillion views, and then now they got a publisher in their face. I think of the access to self-publishing. I stand before you as a self-published author. All of these books, I wrote them all in a garage or on a plane or at a bar by myself. Like, just, it's some place. We've got to this place where you don't need the publisher. You know, we started to see this in the early 2000s with music and SoundCloud and ringtones. You don't need that assistance that you used to need when there was only one printing press in the town. Even now, with the PhD, I still have to sell myself. I still have to make people understand the importance of talking about conservationism, the endangered butterfly, the importance of a nuclear family, a strong nuclear family. So just to land the plane, I think we were provided more opportunity. A lot more people worked from home. There was a lot more sense of, I don't want to say individualism, progression as well. These past 10 years, the world has been on its shoulders. And I don't want to take us back, but you can see in the data from 2020 on down, how are we at the same place that we were 20 years ago in terms of reading, in grades, in scores? All right, I'm gonna give you some time for Q&A, but I can't be me if I don't talk about any strategies now. I try to make it super easy. The teacher, can somebody read this for me, please?
The teacher sets the tone for the love of books, reading, and writing about modeling is essential.
That teacher sets the tone. I walked in my son's room last night. They was Fortniting it up. They was on the headset. Another one was on the group chat. I was like, hey, what y'all been on my Wi-Fi all day. What y'all think this is? So they looking at me. They don't know if I'm serious. They don't know if I'm playing. And I like that. I like that uncertainty with people. However, I understand that my mood and my attitude and my energy can affect wherever this conversation goes. I can get on that and say, lights out, everybody go to bed. Or I can say, hey, let's take a break and read. And I can create that moment with them. And I wish I can tell you even more of how they held each other accountable, and we had to fight to figure out who was going to read the next line or stanza of the poem. But you are the model. You set that tone the moment you walk in that classroom. I've cried in that parking lot so many times of that school, Charlotte J. Keller in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm sure some of us have cried in the car too. But the moment I walk in that building, it's showtime. I don't care what we're reading. I do care because I want to make sure it's good. But if it's Taming of the Shrew, I'm going to fake it till I make it. And I had to do that too, Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare. All right, so some of the foundational strategies for literacy instruction, engaging students daily. I don't care if you're elementary, middle, high school. I know you may be looking at me like, bro, I teach 11th grade science. So there's still an opportunity to slip in literature. High quality instruction, again, we see modeling. Allow children to see you right. Allow them. What's that old, you used to write on it and shine the light? But it was called something, I think it was the projector. I'm not saying I could do a projector. The overhead projector. I'm an anchor chart guy. I'll write a whole paragraph on an anchor chart. We'll write it together. And that can still be, oh, that's cool, that's fine, y'all ain't gonna judge me. But I like a good anchor chart. I love to draw, I love to doodle, clearly. But I also love to show children that, in order to be a good writer, you have to be a great reader. You have to be a great reader. And there's some people in here, I know you've heard me say that.
When I was teaching the Bible to kids,
Yes, ma'am.
these prodigal sons, they are not interested in reading.
Yeah.
But when we represent
Bring them in.
then they start interested in reading.
Yeah. And Hilda Taba talks a lot about this. A lady who worked alongside John Dewey, a white woman in the 1950s. You didn't really see women having much of a voice, especially within education, yet they were all the dang teachers somehow. But there was this one woman, and you can read up on her. She talks about building off of children's experiences. She's Hilda Taba, amazing. And using what children already at least have an inkling of. They don't know their culture, but they know about their culture. They know something in terms of a smell, a food, a word, some form of dialect to get them going. And I'm not saying pander children in a way where like, all right, I was watching Telemundo. Like, no, but find a way to create that inclusivity. Now, this is foundations for critical multicultural literacy. Now, I put Shaggy there for a reason because I'm tiptoeing on this slide, but I thought there were still some things that resonate with the importance of having conversations with children. Simply exploring differences, enriching understandings, exploring dominant systems of others, and not providing a happily ever ending for everything. And that kind of ties to Scooby-Doo too. It was always a happy ending. We always found out the bad guy. We always solved the case. But is that reality? Some conversations that we have with children who are 5 years old, 15 years old, and they asking high order thinking questions. And I look at them like, I don't know. We're going to find this out together. I'm going to land the plane. One of my favorite things, one of my favorite strategies, supported and shared reading. I don't care if it's elementary, middle, or high school. Children need to be supported in a way, and adults too. We got some adult literacy teachers in here. So shared reading is a form of reading that provides support for the less proficient reader by asking a more proficient reader to carry the weight of reading. What does this look like? Just to give it to you in a digestible fashion. Peer reading, choral reading, echo reading, different ways to read with children. I think one of my favorites. Tape stories. So I work a lot in animations because I know people don't want to read. So I know I have to find a way to visualize this book sonically and visually to keep a child for 10 to 12 minutes of a mini lesson. With tape stories, it provides more ownership. Now, we all know the importance of audiobooks, but I like music way too much to get into audiobooks when I'm driving, so that's another story. But what I really get into are voice memos. I get into voice memos in a way with my son because, of course, he's the main character of my animations. I use his voice. We'll listen to them as he acquires new language and he becomes familiar with intonation, breathing exercises, confidence. You really start to see the embellishment of literacy within tape stories. I know it's kind of like, bruh, all of your students have iPhones. If you can come up with project-based learning in a way that gives them the opportunity to record themselves and they put the story together, these kids can cut and edit. They can create their own audiobook. This can go all the way up to high school. I wanted to show, this is done, I do a lot of shared reading, whether I'm taking the lead or turn to your partner, turn to your neighbor, but this can happen in elementary classes and high school through cooperative learning. Whether you got them in table groups or not, or it's just for the day, all right, I put y'all 8, count off 1, 2, 3, 4, are all the ones, different ways to play the game. My name is Dr. Michael Woodward. You guys just call me Mike. These are some of the things that I brought to life. Some of the books, we can't just talk about problems. We have to find time to solve them as well. So I stand before you as a servant. However I can be a part of children's lives, your kids' lives, please never hesitate to reach out to me. Check out my animations on YouTube. They're all for free. Many of my books are for free as well as animations because I go in a lot of low-income communities and they can't afford them. I've met parents who can only afford one book. And I end up giving away 2 for free, and I didn't make any money off of the sale, but that child got 3 books. So for you all, Karen, can I give it away? Can I give them? So for you all can walk away. We have books that were purchased by Miss Kennedy and Miss Jefferson. So I have my marker, we can sign them. I have my very first book, King Monty. The very first, wrote it in 2019. I did all this in 6 years and did the PhD. And I'm working on my reading endorsement. And I got a lot of kids. But it's cool. It's cool. I got a great partner. My wife, she's lit when she's not cussing me out. One thing I do ask, I'm always trying to get better. You may look at me like, he know a lot of stuff, but I need to get more. If you could just take a moment, that's Dr. Rudine Bishop. She talks about books being mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. So children should see themselves in books. They should also venture across lines of differences and see other people, other cultures. Oh, I love to eat when I go out the country. Show me what you got. And where's the beer? Like, I want all of the things that they do in that country. The same is with reading. The same is with reading for children, just on a more appropriate level, of course. But they should also be sliding glass doors. You should be able to step into the life of another child, of another culture, of another world when you open a book. So I'm so thankful. That's a link to my survey. Please, you could be mean. I mean, don't be that mean now, because I can't be crying in the car when you're in the car. But tell me how I can get better. What's your takeaway? What do you think was a very salient, something you're walking away with? And please don't leave without getting a book that I love to sign. You can give it to a child or you can keep it for yourself. Are there any questions? Would anyone like to ask me anything? Yes, Mr. Jefferson. Yes, sir. Yes. Are you okay? Then when I had some who were tutoring to take a high school graduation test, I really started to connect the dots. And I got to the point that many of our parents, it's not that they don't have the time or they won't, a lot of them can't. And they don't want to show that to their child. And we see that reciprocated because then you'll get students, you'll get children. Do you know the younger of both of the boys last night? I don't want to say bully, but he was holding little Mike, my older son, accountable. All right, I read. When you going to read? Whoa, hold up, Daddy. When Mike going to read? I was like, It's a sense of pride that reverberates. And it's a trickle-down effect, sadly. We can only hope that parents reinforce what we tell them in some way, some of the learnings. But what we can do, oh my gosh, just keep trying. And being vulnerable with parents as well. I try not to I'm smarter than you. I'm the teacher. I know I read the Common Core. I know C-Palms. You've been on C-Palms. But you can't do that because it's another language to them. Many of them aren't educated. They aren't college educated. Many of them are high school educated. Depends on what part of town you in. Y'all know this. I don't have to preach this to y'all. However, yes, push them. I will ask them. So I heard y'all had a good weekend together. Such and such was telling me. I know he told me y'all ain't do no reading. You not reading with him, Miss Johnson? You not reading with your child? Oh, well, I don't know what you're talking about, Mike. And then we have that game. But at the same time, man, we hold the people accountable around here. Yeah, that's a tough one. I like a lot of literacy events I see at evenings where parents come to the school and I'll be able to read so that they can model. We can model good reading, what that looks like, questions that we ask. Many of the books, I put the activities where I tell them what to say. Extension to the activity, extension to the reading. Hey. Let me chill out, man, chill out. These people think I'm a good guy. Chill out. You scare me that day. All right. I want to give you all the free stuff. I'm sorry. I just keep talking. Is there anything anyone else wants to ask me? All right, cool. Come on up. I give you some free stuff, whether you want it or not. We give it to a child. Oh, look at all these books, y'all. I wrote them. They came from my mind.